Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us on this lovely, lovely Friday. Good afternoon, morning, evening, night, wherever you might be calling from. We will definitely get to our chat component of this fireside chat. You will hear me mostly in the beginning as we go over some housekeeping things. We'll do a little bit of intros, and then finally we'll get to the more exciting part of the conversation with our CEO. To get us started, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Alejandro. I am calling from Querétaro, Mexico. This is where I'm currently based as well. I am the talent coordinator here at Global Citizenship, and I am an alum of the fellowship, Global Citizenship Fellowship of the 2016 cohort to India. For a little overview of sort of Global Citizenship, who we are, what we're doing now. Right, Global Citizenship is launching a generation of leaders with the perspectives, skills, and networks to solve humanity's urgent challenges. Each year, we recruit talented young people who represent our world's diversity. Using the formative transition into adulthood, we help them shape their values, identity, and purpose in ways that the classroom learning alone cannot. Through our virtual academy, our immersive fellowship, and our hybrid Take Action Lab, we combine curriculum, coaching, and lived experience to help our students develop the real power skills of the 21st century: resilience, empathy, agency, and leadership in order to build a more just and sustainable world. Right? That is who we are. That is what we do. It's what we've been doing for a little bit now. We'll go over some housekeeping items. If you like, we invite you to, next to your name, include where you're calling from in your Zoom here, your Zoom corner. Next to your name, add where you're calling from. Let us know where you are. We super encourage you to keep your camera on. We'd love to have this look like a conversation. We are in a virtual space and we can't be in an actual room all together, at least very easily. And this is the closest we can get to it. So please have your cameras on, react, use the Zoom reactions function, use your facial reactions because you are also a person with a body. We were just doing this a little earlier. Time, we will be together for about an hour. We will be taking student questions. You can drop them in the Slido link that is in our chat on one of these sides of the Zoom. If your question is selected, we will spotlight you. You will come onto this main screen with myself and Erin, and you can ask your question directly. Please only ask the question that you dropped in the Slido and was approved. There are lots of questions, lots of things we have to get through. We're really trying to maximize how many voices we have in the space. We can't get to all the questions. We can't get to everyone's voice as much as we would love to because we only have one quick hour that will fly by. But nonetheless, we'd love to have you come on and join us for a little bit. At the end, there will be a survey also dropped in the chat on one of these Zoom sites. Please fill it out. Drop some notes and drop your words of gratitude, appreciation, excitement, enthusiasm for Erin. We'll be sharing these with her at the end. So I keep talking about this Erin person. I keep mentioning CEO and who is she? Who is this? Erin Lewellen, as CEO of Global Citizenship, executes the organization's vision to address our leadership crisis by changing the composition, operating system, and impact of our next generation leaders. Erin has invested deeply in developing the culture at Global Citizenship with an emphasis on equity and inclusion, leading Global Citizenship to be named #1 in Outside Magazine Best Places to Work in 2021. And we're in the running for 2022. We'll see how that goes soon. Erin's work has always centered on social justice. As Vice President of School Partnerships at Revolution Foods, she championed bringing healthy lunches to underserved communities and led the expansion from $500,000 to $80 million in revenue. That's a big difference. It's a very big difference. She served for 9 years as board chair of Oakland Leaf, a nonprofit dedicated to empowering Oakland youth in their search for social justice, and is on the advisory board for Rising Sun Center for Opportunity. Erin's leadership style is rooted in a strong belief in human potential, a sense of humor, even in tense moments, and the power of ambitious goals. A coach at heart, both in and out of the workplace, and has served as a head varsity coach of the girls basketball team at Emery High School for the last 20 years. She lives with her wife, Amy, in Oakland, California. So my first question for you, Erin, is how would you take that introduction I just gave and expand other parts of yourself, your journey, any tidbits about you that I didn't get to in this little blurb?
That's a great question. Yeah, hearing those, hearing the bio is always sort of a read back to you is always sort of strange. But I would say that I think for me, being all throughout every piece of my career and life has always been about young people and serving young people in the best way I know how, and staying close to understanding what young people want, what they're listening to, what they're looking for and what they need and what they are asking for, and putting their voice front and center. And I think that's sort of, the through line and the thread throughout my career. That's really important. And one of the ways I did that for so long is to coach that basketball team, which I love basketball. And I love the idea of bringing people together for a common shared goal and then working super hard to keep at it until you get there. So that's, I have the same idea when I am leading a team or a part of a team, like how do we all come together, decide where we're headed, and then collectively use our strengths to make that happen. So I guess that's what I would add.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's theme, right? There's continuity. Yeah. Seems like there's something that's on your hearts that you are working at and following.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. To the note of leadership and leadership style, as we touch on it, you're at the helm now of Global Citizen Year. You're sailing our ship forward, thinking big, thinking about, right, in your bio, we talked about ambitious goals. What is your dream for Global Citizen Year's future? Thematically, specifically, whatever ideas might be there. What is sort of like, where are we going? What's the big dream, the big, if anything was possible?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and one that kind of forces you to look into the future. And I think when I think about this question, the first thing that comes to mind is that we continue to become an organization that lives our values, that centers our people, and that focuses on our impact as our core function and our core goal. And I think for me, impact is about bringing young people worldwide together and serving more young people the best way we know how, staying fresh, staying relevant, and making sure that we unlock this transformative moment for young people to really understand their own path and commit to a lifetime of positive change in their communities and in any way they see fit. But this is a way to build a global community, that's activated, that's inspired to create the change that we know we need. And I think to do that, we have to have an organization that makes decisions rooted in our values and that puts our people first, and that does it collectively. I don't see myself, and I think this is a big piece of my leadership that's different, when I see myself as a part of a team that's doing this. We will not, just me in the role of CEO will never accomplish any of this. But me in a role of support system to the team, garnering the resources for the team, making sure that the team has what they need, making sure that we're listening to youth voice in everything we do to push it forward. That's the place that I would like to sit as we do this. I think that would be those are sort of my dreams, like serving thousands of young people every single year, and then bringing them together in our alumni community to really, continue the learning and then put all of our good energy and excitement and value set towards the greater good. Like, what could be better than that? Absolutely.
Totally agree. And I think that a lot of that feels presently true when we talk about, you mentioned, an org that can make decisions rooted in our values. You've written about this, and we'll get to that in a little bit. When it comes to sort of being flexible and staying fresh, staying relevant, we've had to. It's been essential to our survival. You wrote a bit about that too. I'm curious, in thinking about sort of this flexibility, these changes, these decisions, what is your decision-making process? How do you know when something is a yes or when something is a no? What tells you, what guides you in these challenging moments where maybe it's a little hard to say?
Yeah, I think for me, it's about listening. And I think it's about trying to understand, if I have listening to perspectives from other people that I trust, people who are closest to a situation, trying to better understand the perspective, the context. And then if I have something where I see something a little bit differently, sharing my perspective, but sharing it in a way that is about bridging our perspectives. Is there a solution here? Is there something here that bridges both of our needs? And I think that for me, that's two pieces of listening. It's listening to myself, which sometimes it will just won't tell me what the answer is, but it'll tell me that something feels a little bit off about maybe the direction that we're thinking about going, but I don't quite know what it is. So naming it and then bringing it to the forefront so that the team can understand and sit and say, well, wait, maybe what is this? Wait, maybe we need to rethink this. But really doing it in a collaborative way where I truly do not believe I have the best ideas. I fundamentally am clear on that. And so for me, it's about like the smart people sitting around the room that are closest to whatever we're trying to solve. How do we bring out the best in everyone to come together to reach the best conclusion? And then I think when we all are looking at each other and we're thinking this feels right, a lot of times we'll say, okay, let's sit on this. Let's go to sleep. Let's wake up in the morning. Do we still believe this is right? And if so, then we move forward. And so that's kind of how I arrive at a yes for something.
Yeah.
I try to listen to the voice when it says, maybe not quite. And then I go and talk to other people about it. Like, this isn't sitting right. Why do you think maybe it's not sitting right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like this sort of intuitive, this is where I'm leaning. Let's check. Let's find my people. Let's find my community and let's talk. Let's see.
Yeah.
If this feels correct beyond me.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, that was beyond me, feeling correct beyond me. Go ahead.
I think the other thing that is important to me is that I surround myself with people who will tell it like it is. For me, that is critical. I don't want to be surrounded by people who just want to say yes to whatever bad idea I might put out into the world. I want people to say like, I don't think that's a good idea, or you need to rethink X, Y, and Z, or I didn't like how you said that. You need to like rethink, maybe look at some of your blind spots or something like that. I want to be surrounded by people like that. And I try to make sure that I am surrounded by people who can push back and tell me what they really think.
Right. Yeah. That's a process.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big process to find those people and sort of hold on to them, sort of keep them near.
Yeah.
Like especially in virtual spaces, this gets a little challenging. Especially in the context of the org, we've been going through a lot of change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We've been shifting and learning and growing a lot. We're still kind of feeling and navigating the changes, the sort of consequences of a global pandemic. But we're in a much brighter space than we were right a couple of years ago in mid-lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
We're launching a new program. We have a new country. We have a new CEO, and we've made so many new hires across the org, right? Myself included. I'm less than a year here so far. Thank you. If you could talk to us a little bit about how you know that someone is a yes. How do you find that community, sort of in talking to someone and getting to know someone? What are you mentioned that bit of someone who tells me how it is, but in thinking about building a team of people at Global Citizen Year, who are those people? What is a what feels like a strong yes for you when building that team? Sort of what
Mm.
what qualities do you want in your team broadly? Yeah.
That is a really, really good question. And typically, I've talked to Odiaka, who leads our people and talent efforts, about this a lot.
Yeah.
And I think I've distilled it down to, of course, there are things like aligned with our values, aligned with our mission, has some sort of connection to our mission in some way. And those are kind of, first pass type of, we get at those in different ways. And then after that understanding and alignment, then I'm really looking for people who I think are problem solvers, not just problem identifiers. Yeah. So for me, I don't really enjoy it when it's like, well, that is not working and that is not working, and they don't do this well, and I don't love that. We need to operate better. We might be operating well today, and we as a collective unit know we could operate better. So how can we operate better? And maybe identify the problem. That's fine. That's the first step. And then maybe some thoughts on how you want to help solve the problem. So that's a big one for me. I think working with problem identifiers only can be kind of divisive and not really feel like we're one unit with multiple pieces and personalities and strengths, but we're trying to all move forward together. And I think the second one is that I really look for people who see themselves as an agent of change. Like they themselves see themselves as a building part of the organization. Through their part and beyond. They want to be a part of this. And so when they see something that's not quite right, again, it's also that, problem solution. I want to be a part of bringing this and making this better. And then I think the last thing on this is really, it's more about your personal, how would I say, your personal approach. And I think we thrive when we're surrounded by people who maybe do something once and they're instantly thinking to themselves, okay, when I do this again, I'm going to do it like that. I'm going to change this part. I'm going to do that a little bit better because I could see this being a little bit better over here. Consistently wanting to do the thing better. That orientation. And I think if you have those three pieces, you're a great team player. You're a great teammate. And that's what we're looking for, is great teammates. We're all doing different pieces of this puzzle, but the better teammate you are, the better we all are. So I think those are the three pieces that for me are just critical to saying yes to someone. And I have a lot of questions that I ask to get at this in an interview process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I remember some of those questions. Sounds like some of these, sounds like these are like big questions, big ideas, big things to consider, right? Building a team of people to build something out is difficult. And I imagine it takes a lot of headspace. Getting back to the writing piece, sort of sounds like you offload some of this headspace into written space. I'm curious to know if you want to chat a bit about what writing means for you in your life, what its role is for you, sort of what publishing does for you in your creative leadership process.
Yeah, writing for me helps me figure things out. It helps me understand what's not sitting well. So in the most recent piece that I wrote about imposter syndrome, like things were not sitting right with this concept of the idea of a syndrome being the person who is less traditionally seen in leadership. Suddenly, if they feel uncomfortable doing things the way we've seen leaders do things before, they're an imposter. That just did not sit right. And I have the right people around me asking me the right questions here and making me think differently. And I think through writing about it, it popped that I felt like the syndrome should be actually the way people are leading today in a lot of ways, or have been traditionally leading, in this kind of, I am the leader, I make the decisions, I take all the credit. That is just not, I don't think, the way of the future. And I also don't think it's the way through some of our biggest challenges. We need to think about this differently. And writing, for me, helped me figure out why it was uncomfortable, why I didn't feel right about this concept of imposter syndrome. And the other thing about, in the pieces where I wrote about the organization and what we had gone through, that's two pieces for me. That's me helping. When we were in the thick of all of that with, the pandemic, it was a day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute situation. And when I write about it, I get to sit back and say, what just happened here? Yeah. What did we do? Why did we do it? How do I contextualize this for myself and for others? How do I share what we learned, good and bad, about what we did? Yeah. How do I kind of bring it all together so that I maximize the learning from it? And I think that's part of writing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. Sort of this reflective space.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
And then I also really like crisping up the ideas and sending it to, Elikam and Odiaka and Anna oftentimes get sent a piece to give me thoughts and reflections. And I feel like making myself write it down helps me clarify things. It helps, and then they will reflect back with their feedback on things. That helps me see where maybe I do have some blind spots, or maybe I was quite US centric in my approach or my thinking on this. It helps me, if I have to write it down, then it forces me to say what I'm really thinking. And then sometimes that allows someone else to say, well, I'd like to point out that that's a pretty, in this case, in the last case, a US centric perspective. And I was like, right. So it helps me continue to grow also. I put my ideas out there and then people can give me feedback on them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's building in the space of sort of community accountability for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Which can be painful, but important.
Yeah. Learning to take constructive feedback is definitely a skill.
Yes, it sure is. An ever growing for the rest of your life skill.
To the point of the imposter syndrome piece, and sort of unpacking that language, I think a great segue for a question from one of our students, from Ida Malik. Zunaida, if you are here online with us, we will spotlight you. You can come ask your question. The theme is sort of being a different face of leadership, a different type of leadership, and what challenges you might face. How do you overcome these difficulties? Being, I think in this case specifically, right, a woman as a CEO, to the point of the imposter syndrome piece, not being the power hungry, money hungry, aggressive man figure, leading differently. Do we have Zunaida online? Raise your hand. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Thank you. Go ahead and ask your question. Welcome, welcome. Oh, I think we need to unmute first. Can someone unmute? Do you have to unmute? You might have to unmute yourself. I'm not actually sure how this works. If you down in your Zoom screen.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Beautiful. Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Zunaida. And do I have to introduce myself or just ask a question? And
you're welcome to introduce yourself. Absolutely. Let us know who you are.
Okay. Sorry, I look like a dead egg because I'm a bit sick, but I didn't want to miss this conversation. So, anyways, I'm Zunaida. I'm 19 and I'm from Pakistan. So my question was how difficult was it to be, doing everything on your own? And specifically as a girl, because where I am coming from is we have a male dominated society. It's not difficult for me even to, step out of a house and do something. like the, society I belong to, like, the males in our family, they would be like, why do you want to do this? No, you just sit at home, study and get married and have kids. That's it. Okay. So, how difficult it was for you and what kept you going? Like, what kept you going? What was that thing in you? Like, you were like, no, I have to do it. Like, I have to just, leave all the distractions and bad things, and I just have to be focused on one thing. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you for your question. And I think that, we all come from such different backgrounds and different just sets of structures and institutions that work against maybe what we're looking to achieve in our own lives. And that can come in all kinds of different ways. And I think for me, it was it's about finding community. I think one of the big things that you've done is joined this community right here that can give you strength in what you're trying to do with your life and the path that you want to chart for yourself. And I think that's key to doing things in a way that stays true to yourself. Being able to do that in a community that supports that is probably the most important part of how one navigates things like this. And so for me, it was the gay community. So for me, it was about, it was when I came out, I didn't know any gay people. It was one of those things where I sought out the gay community as soon as I started to be like, wait a second, I think this might be true. And that helped me feel supported in what I was figuring out for myself. And so if it's for you, this community right here, if you want to forge a path that's different than maybe one that has been happening for generations in your family, this community could be a big part of that. What are other communities you could seek out that could help support you and your growth and where you're headed? I think that's the biggest piece for something that I could relate to as with what you were expressing.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope I believe it's just helping me a lot. Like it's just 2 weeks in and I'm already seeing so much in myself and I feel confident. Like I'm the girl, I'm just like, if I want to do it, I'll do it. At first I will convince them, listen to me, I want to do this. And if not, I'll okay, do whatever, I will do it. I don't know, it's the right approach or not, because I know I'm doing the right thing, and unless and until I'm not hurting anybody's feeling and I'm contributing a little bit to my community and helping someone, I know I'm doing the right thing. So thank you so much. And I'm just so grateful to have all these people. So thank you. Okay.
We're so grateful to have you. Thank you for just enriching our community. What a pleasure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Oh, that was beautiful. I want to get back to this theme. I think Zunaida brought up a really wonderful theme of overcoming challenge. I think it fits well into our sort of conversations upon reflection and writing, but I do want to touch this community piece of finding gay community, finding queer community. Can you talk to us a little bit about specifically, I'm interested in hearing about moments in time where it was challenging to find that space or to hold on to that space. Sort of how did you do that? Where did you find the gays?
We're everywhere. I have a funny story that I always talk about. Some of you who know me know this story, but I had a sort of a similar global citizen year experience where I went similar to the fellowship, where I lived in Cape Town, South Africa for about 9 months. And I was having a horrible time finding housing. I just could not find housing that was working. And I was talking to a coworker because I was doing an apprenticeship. And I was saying, I don't think this is going to work, but, I've got to find another place. And I always say that I got rescued by my fellow lesbians. And so word just spread just a little bit. And within 48 hours, I had housing and I was living with, 5 queer South African activists. And it was just like, wow, here I am. Here's my community. And it changed my life forever because I learned so much from those 5 amazing women. But I think for me, I like, how would I say, for me, I live in a straight world. I mean, that's just like the way it is, right? And so, I'm going this weekend away with friends, and we are going to be in a gay community for, 3 days. And it's just that's important. And it's just a time when you just don't have to think about anything, and you get to be fully embodying you in those spaces. And I cherish those. We do it at least once a year. And it's just a time when the world feels super gay, and it feels great. Even though I know the world's not super gay, but it feels great for the weekend. So we make those things happen. And I think that you create community, and whether it's, being gay or not, that's, obviously specific to me. But at the same time, it's about creating community in ways that help you grow, help you feel, supported and loved, but also push you, forward in your thinking, expose you to new ways of thinking. That's the type of community that I always seek. And so.
I love that. Living in the gay world, it's like a dream come true.
It is. It's just like wonderful.
Gay Disneyland, just.
Yes, that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. I really resonate with that. I really appreciate that sort of reflection. Moving to Mexico, this is where my family's from, and my parents have very distinct memories of what Mexico was when they left. So me coming back, I'm also very out and open with my family, and my parents are very concerned. They're like, it's not safe. You can't go there. You can't be like this in Mexico. And like, it's not safe. And the more time I spend here, the more I think it's like bringing peace of mind to my family of like, listen, I'm struggling to find community. I just got here. These things will take time either way. For sure, but yeah, just sitting with that piece of we're everywhere. You find your people, you find your spaces. Just convincing my family that I don't know, the Mexico I left behind is not the Mexico I live in today. Yeah, I mean that I want that to bring us back to this piece of like overcoming that challenge. Finding these communities can be very, very difficult. And ultimately what you have to do is do it. You have to try it. When you try it, you will learn and you will move forward. In one of your pieces, to bring us to the writing points, you talk a little bit about this sort of like, sometimes you just have to get over it. You have to do it. You have to keep going. You have to do it. You wrote a 2-part piece titled Learning and Leading Through COVID-19. And you gave us a pretty in-depth look at what was happening in the org in those early pandemic days, the maybe darker days. For those who haven't read it, we'll drop the link in the chat, and I encourage you to take a look. But in part 2, you talk to us, you talk us through the sort of haze of coming out of a total shutdown and total redirect and a total pivot. You specifically wrote, for one, I realized the strategic plan was a sunk cost, financially and emotionally. I needed to get over it. Next, I realized this was survival time. How did you get over it? What made you snap out of it and say, we have to go?
I think I've always been an action type person. So, I think where I've had a lot of practice in this actually is coaching. So I'm a competitive person. I like to win. Well, you don't always win your basketball games. And you're coaching, 15 young women who are out there working hard, and they may be losing, and you can tell that the other team is better. So you in the moment, you could lament that, you could sit in that space, or you could say, okay, how am I going to shift and focus on something that we can get better at even in this moment? And so there's a lot of real-time practice in doing that. And I think that also helps me be biased towards what needs to happen in this moment. Eyes on the prize in terms of, organizational preservation. So in that moment where we were faced with decisions all decisions were not good. None of them felt positive. It was not a decision to launch Take Action Lab. None of the decisions were going to feel good. So I think what I recognized after we had evacuated everyone was that I was about to have to make a series of really hard decisions. And how do I know best to do that? Get the team together, talk about our situation, and develop a plan with a group of people to, this is what needs to happen? What's our end goal here? And then how do we just kind of move through pieces? And I think where I arrived at that moment was when I thought to myself, okay, this pandemic, this isn't going to be a blip on our radar. This is going to impact us for maybe years. And it's going to impact the world in very sad ways. We're not going to be able to run our program. So can we make moves now to preserve our organization, to weather this, that then allows us to maybe, and at this time that was just kind of a glimmer, maybe be able to keep serving young people during this moment.
Absolutely.
First, we have to survive. And once I recognized that, it was a possibility for us to not survive, that's when it was go time. Okay, let's move. We're going to figure out how to make this thing survive. I think that was kind of the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Thinking about sort of this, I think that's a very creative way of looking at sustainability. Right, of thinking about how are we going to keep going long term, that we obviously could not keep running the fellowship business as usual in the middle of a global shutdown. You could not get in or out of anywhere. So what can we do that will keep?
Yeah. And I think for one, we had to stay in existence. So there was a series of things we needed to do to stay in existence. And then number two, we could figure out what to do with what we had. What can this group of humans do to bring something to the world that we think could be helpful in this moment?
Yeah.
That was phase two.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And we brought the Academy, this wonderful, beautiful community, which we're so lucky to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. To the point of community, right? We are growing. It's exciting to see. I want to, let's see, I feel like I have once again been talking a lot. I want to open up for a student question. And I try to come up with a clear segue. Unfortunately, this time I could just not, but it's a very good question. From Abhishek. Abhishek, if you want to raise your hand in Zoom, you can go to reactions and then raise your hand so we can find you more easily. And come online and ask your question. This question is about growing up, lessons learned growing up. If you want to go ahead and ask your question, Abhishek.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to have you here. And thank you so much for such a wonderful thing. And so I want to ask, tell us something about your childhood that led you to this path, like the journey that has brought you here.
Yeah, something in your childhood that's led you down this path, something early on in life that brought you here. Thank you, Abhishek.
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking it. Well, I think it's a very direct tie for me. I come from a very small town in Oregon, in the western part of the United States, and I had a wonderful family and upbringing, and we did not have the opportunity to travel. We did not have the opportunity. We every once in a while went camping, those types of things. And so I always felt like being in this small community, I was having fun. I was loved. Everything was great. And I felt like there was something a little bit bigger about the world that I was not really understanding or experiencing. And I wanted to experience it. So I had tried multiple things, but because of financial circumstances, I couldn't do many of the things that I had sort of looked into. They were quite costly. And so I kept thinking, okay, I'm going to do something here that's at some point, I'm going to keep looking for an opportunity to kind of break out of this small bubble while a loving bubble, just a small bubble, how can I break out of this a little bit? And I got an opportunity finally at the University of Oregon where they supported me to go somewhere abroad if I got an internship where I was volunteering my time. And so I got an internship working with survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault in Cape Town. And I moved there, and it forever changed my life. It changed my perspective. It made me understand myself more. It made me understand the world and all I had to learn and unlearn about the world, what I had been taught. And it made me really committed to a lifetime of positive impact. I wanted to, whatever I did, I knew I wanted to be creating positive impact in other people's lives as much as I could, and working towards, places where I just thought there was a lack of justice or there was a lack of fairness. How can I work at that intersection to try to create change? And then when the opportunity came, almost 9 years ago now, to join the Global Citizen Year team when it was very small, I thought, wait a second, this is the opportunity that unlocked my whole thinking about myself and the role I could play in the world. And if I had the opportunity to wake up every day and try to give this to more young people across the world, that's a game changer. That just feels so right in so many ways. And so I joined the team, and I've been here ever since, trying to figure out organizationally, how can we serve more young people from around the world in ways that unlock their own confidence, their own excitement and inspiration to make a positive impact in the world, and create community around that to make that actually be able to happen. So it's in so many ways just a dream come true.
Yeah, thank you. That was really great. Like from a lot of time in like Asian families, there are most of them are like very comfortable in the small bubbles, and it's hard to like just go out of this bubble because surely of the financial circumstances, and also as you told, it's really like there is a lot of thing outside of that bubble, and I'm also doing that same thing, trying to find out. And thank you so much for your answer.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking the question. I think, that's gets back to something that's been, I think, a theme through this whole conversation, which is really about building community that encourages and facilitates ways for you to expand in the ways you want to expand, right? And I think family bubbles are very common. And when you're a person who wants to be outside of that, because not everybody does, which is fine too, then you have to honor that and also explore into other communities. And I think that hopefully you'll find community in the academy in ways that support where you want to go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. It's a great question.
Agreed. we, on this note of sort of growth and progress and moving forward, at the organization, we talk a lot about finding our North Star.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that means? What is a North Star, and how do you find one? How do you name one? What does that process look like?
That is a process I think that is very much easier said than done. When I write that, I always kind of laugh at myself, like, do you really know the North Star? That's what I always ask myself, like, do I really know it? And I think that trying to develop that is always something that it's consistent. It's always present. What is the North Star? And I think for us, it's a focus on impact and how we can find ways to activate and inspire young people for a lifetime of positive impact. That seems to be the core theme. And that's the what. That's the North Star. And then the how can look different. It could look like a 9-month fellowship. It could look like an academy online global program. It could look like Take Action Lab, which is also an immersive program, but different. And there's multiple hows to get to the what. And then your North Star can shift within context. So for us, when we were having to make lots of really hard decisions around staffing and teammates, it's always important to say we're people first. And how do we stay human focused? Our North Star here is to take care of our people as best we can while preserving the organization. So each time your North Star might be connected, but it might shift a little bit in the context that you are, but I think where you are. But I think what's important is that you take a moment to say, okay, hold on. What is that bigger picture, and what are we doing here? And how do we maintain our core set of values as we're approaching whatever issue we're doing? And that is a lot of times your North Star. It's how you find it in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely. This process of sort of distilling down the essentials, like
yes,
what it's really about.
Yes.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely sound like a challenging process.
Yeah, because it's ever changing, right? And context matters. And what your community is telling you is important matters. So you've got to take all those things in and try to distill and say, okay, that's where we're headed. It might take us a while to get there, or it might look different than we thought as we approach it. But keep this in mind. That's where we're going. That's where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a saying in English, right, of it takes a village, right? So once
Mm-hmm.
you know where you're headed, who's coming with you?
Yeah. Right.
Who's joining you on the journey? Who's going to support you in the journey?
Mm-hmm. And who was part of creating that journey? It should be co-created, especially if you're an organization. Mm-hmm. And if you're leading an organization and you've got your own path that you're charting, there's always the risk that if it's your own path, you're going to have a hard time getting people inspired and engaged. It's important to say, what is our path? How do we want to approach this, and really do it in a more collective fashion? It doesn't have to be a collective, but a more collective approach.
Right. Precisely how Take Action Lab was designed.
Yes.
A big, very big team effort.
Yes.
I want to take a question again from a student, sort of to that point of your community. This question is from Pedro Shoji. Pedro, if you want to raise your hand in Zoom so we can find you and come online and ask your question. This is a question about finding people as you grow. Go ahead.
Okay, can you listen to me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. So, hey Erin, hey Alejandro, how are you doing? So yeah, I asked the question on the website and the link that's sent to us about how to scale projects and make people believe in our purposes, because I have been always involved in these voluntary projects and I have been in these leadership positions, but the main problem that I found throughout these experiences was how to scale these projects and make people engage more, so that's my question.
Mm.
Yeah. How do you get people to sign on with you? to
Mhm.
be your purpose? Yeah.
Oh man, this is a good question. There's so much in here, and I think that I would just say that the challenge is felt everywhere. And I think I would go back to a few things that we've touched on here, which I think it's about ensuring that you find a community that is aligned and then create a shared vision and mission as to where you're headed. And then that shared vision and mission actually makes it go from one person to a small group. And that small group then is so much more powerful in actually achieving what you're trying to achieve. And I think that's the first step. And then in that, you know, in bringing it to other people, having sort of the conviction and inspiration around what you're trying to do in a way that it's impossible for people around this small community to not feel and want to be a part of. And I think that that's a big piece of it. I think I'll speak to it in, you know, because it's kind of hard if I don't know what it is, but I'll speak to it with Global Citizen Year. For us, it's about collectively putting our brains together around how we can serve young people best worldwide, and then creating an experience that truly feels in a lot of ways inspirational and creates some magic, enough magic for a young person that they then tell their friend about it, and they then tell their broader community about it, and begin talking about these things and bring people in. And suddenly you're going, you know, you've had 100 people involved. Suddenly you've got 200 people. About those 200 people each tell a person, you're doubling, and you're rippling out that way. And I think that that's the part that's so important, is bringing people together and then making sure they have an awesome, amazing experience. They're excited, they're on board, boom, boom, and then it ripples out. But it's not, I mean, look, Global Citizen Year has been around for almost almost 13 years. And if you think about it, we're just to the point where we're starting to feel that ripple. So it takes a long time. I mean, in year one, when Abby started this organization, there were 10 young people.
Right.
That's it. It's hard to imagine, but there were 10. You got to start somewhere, you know? And when we do Take Action Lab, we're going to start with 50. That's still also very small, right? But we're going to start somewhere, and we want to make sure it's a good quality experience. So those 50 young people tell another 50 young people, and then we can go from there. And so I think a lot of times it's great to start small because you can create magic in that moment.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what an insight. Come on, that's so nice. Yeah, because I have always heard this thing about quality is always better than quantity, right? So this magic is really special. And oh my gosh, that's so nice. That's why Global Citizen Year has been so amazing. Yeah, oh my gosh.
Great. That's great.
No,
well,
oh
joining a community like this, right? It gives you the opportunity to broaden and find more people that might want to join what you're doing. So that's the other thing, is like focusing on what you're doing, but then accessing different communities that might want to be a part of it in different ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Groups.
Oh my gosh, that's so nice. That's so nice. Thank you so much, Erin. Come on, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your great question.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, lovely. It's a hard thing, right? Finding those people that, right, really believe in that see the magic, that feel the magic. Yeah, it's difficult, but totally agree. I think when you believe in it enough yourself, it's hard for other people not to.
Yeah.
Yep. Hard for other people not to. We only have a few minutes left. Sadly, because I see so many lovely questions in our Slido chats, but we do have to wrap up, unfortunately. My last question for you, Erin, is if you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh, I'm so bad at these. These are so hard. I think I would tell my 18-year-old self, I'm going to cheat, 2 things.
Okay.
To keep saying yes to different opportunities, to keep like really engaging in new opportunities, say yes to them, learn as much as you can from them. And then the other side of that is to believe that you will land in a place where you feel like you're doing your best work, and you will always have to be improving, but you will feel okay in knowing that. Just know that, like you will get there. I think it's sometimes when I'll just speak for myself. When I was 18, I just felt like there's so much I don't know. I'm never, the confidence was low, but just resting and there's so much I don't know. Yeah. And that's awesome. Like I'm going to live a lifetime of learning, and I'm never going to achieve sort of this perfect thing. I'm just going to live a lifetime of learning.
Right.
And that is going to like fuel me and give meaning to me in my life in a way that feels the depth that I'm looking for.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. This is so fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for our guests. Round of applause for our lovely guests. There's a Zoom function for that as well, but you can also
yes.
Round of applause for our speaker, Erin. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time to have this conversation with us. To all our students that came on to speak, thank you for having courage, dropping questions in and coming online. There's a lot of us here, so it's a big to ask these questions up in front of this big crowd. Any thoughts, appreciations, feedback? There's other words for these. We have, what are they called? Ahas, appreciations, apprehensions. Drop them in the survey that we have here in the chat. We'll share these notes with Erin post the meeting, so that they won't be stuck in this little survey. We actually do get to read them and see them, and we love to see them. So in that link, go ahead and drop your thoughts. And again, as we wrap up, Erin, thank you so much for taking the time to come and join us. I've loved this conversation.
And thank you, Ale, for your prep and for your awesome questions, and for everyone who makes this whole thing work. Sahar, Mariana, David, I mean, every teammate that's on here, and all the Academy students, we all make this thing work and sing, and just thank you to all of you.
Thank you. Take Action Lab is happening, and we're growing our community so much bigger. So exciting. So exciting. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.